Porn, checking people out, and dopamine. What do they have to do with each other? I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. Let me tell you. In this video, first I'm going to tell you how pornography changes the way that your brain functions. Then we're going to segue into talking about why you might find yourself checking people out in the world, even if you don't want to. Even if you're with your partner or with your family and you don't want to be looking people up and down and you find yourself doing it anyways. And then I'm going to talk about what dopamine has to do with both of those things. And stay with me until the end because I'm going to give you your brain tip on how you can back that behavior out so that you're being present with the people that you're with when you're out in the world, and you will no longer need to run back to the screen for a dopamine hit from pornography. Okay, so we know from the science that pornography creates desensitization in the reward center in the midbrain. So what this means is when you couple your brain to the screen and when you keep going back for more and more consistent, frequent, and especially if it increases to a level of intensity in pornography viewing, what happens is that reward center in your brain needs this massive stimulus. It needs it a lot. It needs it frequently, it needs it for a long time, and it needs it with intensity to be able to feel pleasurable sensations. And we know then what happens is when you go back into the world and you're hanging out with your family and you're having dinner, your brain isn't getting the level of dopamine that it typically gets from your pornography viewing sessions, especially if it's coupled with masturbation. So now your brain's going, whoa, I'm hanging out in the world. I got to deal with these kids. I got my honey talking to me here, and, they're elbowing me to behave differently. This isn't as fabulous as the massive dopamine release I get when I'm watching pornography in isolation. So then your brain will look for ways to get dopamine in the world to the level that it has been used to getting it from pornography. Now follow me here. The way that your brain gets the dopamine hits in pornography is by objectifying people's bodies, seeing people's bodies as instruments for your own sexual gratification and pleasure, dopamine hits. So while you're out at dinner with your family, your brain's like, I need a dopamine hit to offset this real world thing and any cortisol that comes along with it. To be able to do that, guess what it does? It checks people out, and especially it checks out body parts that give you that release in your pornography consumption. So whatever body part you are coupling your brain to in your porn sessions, it will gravitate towards in the world to get a dopamine hit. So when you look at bodies in the world, especially if you do it frequently and consistently, with some level of compulsion, meaning it happens by itself as a reaction and you don't even want it to, but it keeps happening, you will be getting and giving your brain a dopamine hit. And you might do that 20 times when you're out to dinner. If you're looking at waitresses or if you're looking at women or men that are near you, you're giving your brain a dopamine hit. So how do you back that out? The way that you back that out is by not allowing your brain to be able to get the reward for the looking at somebody else. And the reason I'm making this video today is a lot of people have asked me this lately. It seems to be the topic of the week. What can I do, or what can I do to break this, looking at people thing? Or when a movie scene comes on, how am I going to not get a little dopamine hit from a sexual scene in a movie? You have to look away. And you know how I feel about this. There needs to be a negative consequence delivered. No, it's not punishment. For anybody who wants to write a comment that, so what I'm hearing from you is I need to punish myself. No, but if you want to break this habit, your brain is used to looking at someone's body, getting a dopamine hit. The way we interrupt that pattern is when you look at someone's body, it gets a cortisol hit, stress neurotransmitter hit. It doesn't get the reward, it gets a negative consequence. That's how the pattern will be interrupted over time. And yes, you might need to do that many times before you can really break that pattern, but it will work because you have to interrupt that negative feedback loop that your brain is stuck in. The behavior is I check people out. Then what happens is you get a neurotransmitter release as a reward to your brain. It gives your brain this little dopamine flood. It makes you feel better and it makes you want to go back for more. When you interrupt that with a little dose of cortisol, your brain won't want to go back for it as much as it did before it got the cortisol release. And if you do that over time, then what happens is you interrupt that pattern, and before you know it, you'll be out to dinner and you won't be checking people out because your brain won't need it anymore, and that pathway for reward will be changed into pathway for a negative consequence. Now, what does that have to do with pornography consumption? The way to really get to the bottom of this is to stop viewing pornography, because we know from the science that pornography is frying out the reward center in the middle of your brain. It is desensitizing your brain in the midbrain. So your brain is going to need these hits of dopamine because it needs very high levels of stimulation just to feel okay in the world. At the same time, there's underactivity in the frontal lobe, which is the braking system or the judgment system. And that underactivity in that prefrontal cortex is making it so that you can't make the good judgments or stop yourself from checking people out or stop yourself from viewing pornography. You have to develop more activity in that area of the brain so you can gain more control. And yes, I know it's difficult to be able to do when you don't have that control. So your brain tip for today is, if you're interested in getting the brain training headband, it will pattern interrupt for you. If you use it 5 minutes a day, every day, it's going to start rewiring your brain in the proper direction. It does it for you. And that is the easiest way to start bringing your brain online. I'm going to pin the link for the 15% discount off the brain training headband to the top of this video. I encourage you to get it. And when people do coaching with me, I can see what your brain is doing. And now I have hundreds of people who are coaching with me and are able to see their own brains and have learned how to interpret their brain graphs, and they can see their brains getting better. But it will do it for you, and it will make you feel better. It will give you more control over your ability to no longer watch pornography and to no longer check people out in the world. So I know that brain tip comes with an expense. The other brain tip is to do meditation. The headband is basically neuromeditation. You can do meditation by yourself. Sit on your couch for 5 minutes. Let the brain speed come down. Transcendental meditation is a very powerful technique where you come up with a mantra, usually an open vowel sound that you can say or make the sound and anchor into to calm your brain down, so that it won't need to be calmed down or stimulated as much. So you can start with that transcendental meditation, mantra meditation for 5 minutes a day, usually earlier in the day when your brain is alert and not tired and it's not bouncing off the walls, is the most powerful time. Okay, if you're looking for help in your porn brain reboot journey, I'm here for you. Go on over to drtrishleigh.com. I have programs of different shapes and sizes that can help you out. And as always, control your brain or it'll control you.